Here's a little bit of Mehdi Hasan over on MSNBC.
Is it fair to describe the modern GOP as neo-fascist or proto-fascist? Florida's gone from don't say gay to don't say black. Now he's graduated from whitewashing black history to simply erasing it. This is what the Republican Party is now. It exists to play up fears and push ideas of right-wing victimhood. America's far left wants to give us free healthcare and free childcare. America's far right wants to give us white supremacy and no democracy. Palestinians live under a regime of apartheid. If the election deniers on the right win in 2022 in November next month, to me, democracy looks like it's over in America. Fascism is here to stay. Woke is often used by conservatives as a way to complain about black people and black activism. Israel is the occupier of the West Bank and Gaza. So after 9/11 and the launch of a so-called global war on terror, xenophobia and specifically Islamophobia became rampant here in the US. We had to be protected from the dangerous brown hordes at our borders.
That's just a small sampling. But I mean, if you poured over Mehdi Hasan's Israel commentary, you would not emerge confused about how much he loathes the state of Israel. And it's not just that he's a Palestinian supporter. I mean, I listen to John Podoretz's Orville commentary all the time. He would tell you openly, this guy's an anti-Semite, and it's very clear from his... He certainly has called him that, I think. I'm trying to remember specifically.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro did.
There are many people who believe that about Mehdi Hasan. I mean, he's been extremely biased against Israel. That'll pass just fine on CNN, but what you said caused an absolute meltdown. So why do you think that is? Why?
Because, I told people at CNN I told the talent team at CNN when I first was asked to come onto the network that I am not a Republican who apologizes for being a Republican. I'm not a white man who apologizes for being a white man. I don't care. Like, I'm not here for your narrative. And the talent team said that's okay. And my first show I did with Van Jones and it went great. And I had a good viral moment out of it talking about polling. And then the second one was about, as you said, mentioned before, the Ferguson effect. And when I talked about crime, they all looked at me like, how could you possibly be saying this? And it was, I was going against the narrative. And actually in the first segment, in the first show I ever did with Van Jones said, my party believed in a lot of crazy things back in 2020. And I said, yeah, it's called Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter has a lot of crazy things that they believed in. And at that moment, it was the first show I ever did. And Abby was like, wait, what? And I remember like Abby's look to me. We didn't go into it, but I was not going to be pushed around. And I think when I did the Ferguson Effect comment, and it really was a big story, and Fox covered and other people covered it because Abby said I was making the term up, that I had made the entire thing up.
Abby Phillip, the anchor. Let me show it, Ryan. We actually have that clip. Stand by and I'll let you take it on the back end. Here it is.
In the context of riots, he was saying, let's just bring the military into it to deal with American citizens. I mean, that happened yesterday.
Right, but the post-George Floyd riots resulted in an excess of over 15,000 black male deaths in this country. How?
Yeah.
The surge of violent crime, it was like Ferguson, the Ferguson effect and the Floyd effect.
Respectfully, you got to explain to me how George Floyd's death.
Yeah.
Because I need causation here.
Yes,
you really are.
What happened?
Brian, we got to stop you there because you're literally making a connection out of your own conjecture.
No,
you cannot.
It's a real thing.
That.
Look up the Ferguson effect. Look up the Floyd effect.
You cannot say that what happened during that time period is to blame for the deaths of other black men due to violence or what have you.
100% happened.
But that literally, and my point to you is that makes absolutely no sense.
In terms of connection, I will read it.
Okay.
And then I will fact check the sources that actually wrote the thing.
It won't take long to fact check. It's right there. I don't know about the 15,000 number, but there's zero question that many black men and black women have died in these cities as police pulled back.
Yeah, so if you look at the excess deaths from where our starting number was in 2013 to 2022 or 2023, whatever the last number was, it's well over 10,000. And if you add car accident deaths, because there was a decrease in cops pulling over cars with black drivers in them that led to an excess of car accident deaths, you would get to the 15,000 number. Abby wrote the story on the Ferguson effect for the Washington Post 10 years ago.
Oh, that's amazing.
There is no way she didn't know what it was. There's absolutely no way. CNN covered it. CNN covered the Ferguson effect. and them saying it doesn't exist. And I'm sorry, but Bakari Sellers, who was the gentleman arguing with me, he is a professional race hustler. There's no way he didn't hear about it. And other ones sat there and said, yeah, it's real, but it's not true, which is fine. You can argue the merits. To say it's not, I'm making it up on the spot. Like, I would just automatically just think of all these words and throw them together and these accusations. After that show, I was like, I'm not going to be on this network much longer. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, you were on a thin reed. Now it's all coming together, Ryan. You were on a very thin reed. So there's no tolerance for you. So, okay, so the segment ends like in the middle of the thing, and then they pull you aside and they kick you out. And then CNN issues a statement after the fact that reads as follows. There's zero room for racism or bigotry at CNN or on our air, I mean, unless it's against white men, in which case it's fine because we just gave them all some of the examples, Ryan, and we hear that this woman sitting next to you keeps calling it white man humor. What does the race have to do with? Okay, whatever, fine. We aim to foster thoughtful conversations and debate, including between people who profoundly disagree with each other, in order to explore important issues and promote mutual understanding. But we will not allow guests to be demeaned or for the line of civility to be crossed. Ryan will not be welcome back at our network. We are too highbrow for the likes of Ryan. That's what they tried to say. And then Abby Phillips, who is honestly, like, I was open-minded to her when she first got her show. I watched a little bit here and there. She is a wolf in sheep's clothing. She's got like this sort of sweet way of sounding, and she's got this calm demeanor, and she is as leftist as Nicole Wallace. I mean, she is committed to Kamala Harris. I've watched it enough to know. Here's what she does. She goes out on the air Monday night as you're, twisting on the vine, and says this.
I want to just address what happened in the last segment. First, I want to apologize to Mehdi Hasan for what was said at this table. It was completely unacceptable. When we get this discussion started, you'll see that Ryan is not at the table. There is a line that was crossed there, and it's not acceptable to me. It's not acceptable to us at this network. We want discussion. We want people who disagree with each other to talk to each other. But when you cross the line of a complete lack of civility, that is not going to happen here on this show.
The line of civility does not include a black woman saying that Donald Trump is going to exterminate me or refusing to be lectured to by a white man, because white men don't have the right to speak to black women on CNN in the way we saw in that clip. This is such an absurd theater. Like, I barely have tolerance for it, just to watch them cloak themselves in this holier-than-thou act as though this is CNN. How dare you come and pollute their airwaves? But this is what they've chosen to do. And then I'll just give you one more. Abby Phillip then goes out and wants to reassure everybody that Mehdi Hasan had also left the set, but not because he'd been thrown off, because he's allowed to say whatever he wants. Here she is.
As you may have seen, Ryan was asked to leave the show, and we have put out a statement saying that he's not welcome back on our air. There is a line here on this program, and it was crossed. But I want to be clear as well that we did not ask Mehdi to not come back. In fact, we really wanted him to come back and finish the show. We had a lot to talk to him about. And we really hope that he'll join us again soon. But for those of you who are wondering why he did not come back, I just want to be super clear that that was not in any way because we didn't want him back.
So he's fine. He's fine. He can act like you called for him to be assassinated, which is not at all what you did. But you're gone forever.
It's the thing, truthfully, I mean, Abby has always been nice to me off air. Always. On air, she always cut me off and fought with me and said things I said weren't true. But off air, she was very pleasant. So I have nothing personal against her whatsoever. I have
nothing personal against her. I just think professionally, I'm just making it.
Well, yeah, because so that Ferguson episode, she asked Bakari off commercial break was like, it's not even going to be close. We're going to know on election night. She's going to win. She's going to be in DC. And Abby said off air, she's like, I got to be in DC then when she wins. I got to be there for the first black female president. And it was, there's no ifs, ands, or buts that who she's rooting for. And I get it. Like, whatever. That's fine. That's the game. And also, I'm not on CNN anymore. I will live. I will carry on. It will not be the worst thing that ever happened to me in this life. Trust me. But there is an open bias. And every single time you would go to do this show or any of the shows on CNN that I did, both shows that I done on CNN, every angle is a negative Republican angle. Every angle you have to sit there and be on the defensive unless you control the topic. So, I had to sit there and say something to control the topic at all times. Was it uncivil? Sure. Was it anything more uncivil than what Don Lemon said on the network or what? Or also, was it more untruthful than what Brian Stelter has said on that network? I mean, or anybody else? There's so much vitriol. And this is how much people have watered down the term Nazism, to the point where, Mehdi sat there and said that Trump was using the words of Joseph Goebbels.
I know.
And that was what irritated me. You, who have said things, he called all non-Muslims animals. He called gay people pedophiles. He has said horrendous things in his past. And I don't care if he's apologized, whatever, that's fine. He has said horrendous things in his past. He has had much more of the vitriol closer to those people than Donald Trump has. And you're not allowed to say that. Otherwise, you're just an angry white man. I'm like, all right, whatever. Don't have me back on your show with 200,000 viewers and 89,000 in the Prime demo. I mean, it's fine. It's totally fine. I won't do it. It's okay.
Far more people will see you on this show than saw you on that appearance. Not only did they let him get away with calling Donald Trump Goebbels, but Hillary Clinton was on their air a week earlier, not even days earlier, saying this was an MSG, this thing was a Nazi rally. Here it is. Watch.
And, one other thing that you'll see next week, Caitlin, is Trump actually reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939. I write about this in my book. President Franklin Roosevelt was appalled that neo-Nazis, fascists in America were lining up to essentially pledge their support for the kind of government that they were seeing in Germany. So I don't think we can ignore it.
But they won't allow the line of civility to be crossed at CNN, Ryan. Got it? Do we understand each other? This show encourages honest conversations, which isn't easy in today's media environment with big tech deciding who and what gets amplified. Well, there's a news platform that prioritizes free speech and transparency without controlling the narrative. Ground News. Ground News is an app and website that aggregates related articles from around the world, highlighting each source's political bias and corporate influence. Here's an example. Recently, CBS News told their staff not to refer to Jerusalem as being in Israel. And guess who didn't cover this? Left-leaning media. On Ground News, you can see more than 90% of the coverage is coming from right-leaning sources. Ground News has an entire blind spot feed with stories like this that are receiving lopsided coverage. It reveals how media narratives are shaping the conversation, and they're offering our viewers 40% off their Vantage plan, which gives you unlimited access to their website and app. They are independent and supported by subscribers, not corporate interests. Check them out at groundnews.com/Megyn. That's ground, GROUND, news.com/Megyn to take back control of the news you consume. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.